Welcome to our /AskReddit where OP gets a free mattress. Our first question asks, what was the most expensive thing you ever got for free? An entire brand new in-store $600 green mattress. To this day, I have no idea what happened with this one. I just moved into my first official place, which I split with my brother. Up to that point, I slept on a twin my entire life. But having reached what felt like a pinnacle of success, I thought I needed a mattress worthy of my newly independent status. I went to a couple stores where the salesman follows me around and generally creeped me right the heck out. The mattresses were also much more expensive than I planned on anyway, but I probably would have given up regardless. Well, one day, shortly thereafter, I was driving to work when I passed a store that had never noticed a closeout sale. I said excitedly to my empty car, "Surely there will be something there that I can afford." I beeline over there on my lunch break, unable to wait until after work. It was a tiny shop, rolled up. Mattresses were piled in a disorderly heap against the wall inside the door. Beyond them, facing the door, was an equally untidy desk with papers strewn haphazardly. About to the right was the display floor, which had room for perhaps 8 to 10 mattresses to be out at a time. The middle-aged man behind the desk glanced up over his glasses as I entered. "How can I help you?" he asked. "I'm looking for a memory foam mattress. I'm hoping to find one on the softer side, but I've also heard they can have problems with retaining heat, and I want to avoid that." The man nodded and stood, beckoning me over to the first of the 8 mattresses on display. This is a really quality one made by some well-known brand. It does tend to run a bit firm though. I tried it. Yep. This was a Papa Bear bed. I wanted Mama Bear's too soft. No such thing for me. Goldilocks was crazy. The salesman motioned me to the second bed in the line. This one is softer, and it's a really great off-brand bed with built-in cooling solutions. It's also cheaper by about $200. I sat on the edge, swung my feet up onto the protective cover across the bed, and sank down into utter bliss. This was it. I was astonished by how both squishy and supportive this mattress managed to be. It was like an endless hug from my mom, and I was absolutely sold. Once I managed to pry myself away, we headed over to the clutter pile desk. The man told me my options: cash up front, about $600, or a finance plan interest-free of 3 payments, 1 per month. While I could have paid for it right there, I thought it would be easier on my budget if I didn't totally drain my account unnecessarily. He rummaged around for a while before unearthing the proper paperwork, and filled me in on the story of his doom store while I filled it out. Competition was fierce, he said, and being such a tiny store, he struggled to bring in customers. Add to that he and his teenage son did all the deliveries, made especially difficult by the fact that his back was starting to go and he was just done. "I'm going back to long-distance trucking," he confided. "I've already got a job lined up with benefits and better pay, and I can give my back a rest." I handed him the paperwork and he told me to come back after work and I could load up my bed after he'd processed my info. Promptly at 5 o'clock that night, I was back, card in hand and ready to load up. The salesman met me outside. Apologetic. He'd not had time to run my paperwork, he said. But that was all right. I could still take the mattress that day, and he'd call me when he'd set up my payments. I couldn't complain too much about that. So his son helped me load the tightly rolled mattress into my hatchback, and off I went. By the following week, I'd still heard nothing back. The mattress had taken a couple days to air out, and it still smelled weird from newness, but overall I was loving it. Like the Lannisters, however, my parents taught me to always pay my debts, and I'd worked hard to earn this mattress. I had no interest in acquiring it in any dishonest way. I returned to the store by the second week to check on things. The salesman apologized profusely as he searched through even larger piles of paperwork on his desk. Things were crazy, what with the closing, he explained. But he'd get my papers done eventually, he promised. 2 weeks after that, as I was once again driving to work, I noticed that the mattress sign was gone. His delivery truck was no longer parked there either, and the windows were empty and dark. I checked that night to confirm, and sure enough, he was gone. I had no way to contact him either, since the only number available had been for the business. For years thereafter, I waited to hear from him. I halfway thought the collections might show up at my door or in my mailbox, or however they shake money out of supposed mattress thieves. I like to think he just scraped all those papers into a box in the end, and took great satisfaction in tossing the box on a celebratory bonfire that evening. I'll likely never know for sure, but 4 years later, I'm curled up on that same mattress, comfortably typing out the story somewhere. I hope there's a happy long-distance truck driver who found a good job and a good life. So good, in fact, that the $600 he missed out on never even crosses his mind. Subscribe, while our next question asks, what's an industry secret that we can use to avoid huge medical bills? I've been working as a dentist for 20 years, and some of my colleagues are more dirty than you think. Many times, if a patient has a flossing issue, the dentist will recommend an expensive mouthwash kit that has the same formula as a $100 mouthwash. If the patient isn't brushing properly, they'll tell you to buy an electric toothbrush that's not only overpriced, but also gives them commission. I could have gone down the same route, but I didn't. Instead, I make sure to put the patient's health as a priority because that's what I would want for my own dentist. I often recommend at-home solutions when the insurance doesn't cover a patient's treatment, but the most effective and sought-after hack is something that I'm about to reveal. A lot of problems like cavities, bad breath, and most gum diseases stem from one thing: an imbalanced pH level. This stems from the acids in your mouth and from the food you eat, resulting in odors forming from the pH level in your saliva, dropping to a 5.5. The ideal pH level you want in your mouth is a 6.7. If your breath stinks, that's probably why snacking during the day is one of the top contributors to why a patient's pH level drops. If you're unsure how to check this, lick your wrist on the side where the skin is sensitive. Let it dry for a moment, and if the smell is bad, it's very likely that your level is imbalanced. A couple of years ago, a patient with a severely imbalanced pH level came to me, and luckily I had the solution for them. The patient, a mother, came into my office with her toddler who refused to talk and kept holding his cheek in pain. After doing x-rays on him, we saw the beginnings of 7 cavities. Typically, you find a couple of cavities on most patients, but this was a toddler whose adult teeth hadn't even come in and was developing cavities already at an early age. That's what we call dental caries. This kid was on the verge of gum disease at an early age, which is an ugly sight when I see a child with teeth as bad as this. I'm really have to assume that this child is in a dangerous situation at home. I sat down with his mother and asked why she waited so long to take him for an appointment, or if she was administering any oral care for him. She told me that it was only recently that her insurance approved her and covered this appointment. I told her, while I understood her position, that still didn't explain the condition. Her child's teeth were in. I remember watching her try to hold her composure in front of me. She told me in an effort to get him to enjoy solid foods. She started giving him lollipops and he developed a sweet tooth. It got so bad that he won't eat food unless it means he gets a lollipop afterwards. She was so afraid of her kid not eating, the cavities didn't even cross her mind. Most dentists would have told her to keep coming back and charged her thousands for baby fillings, but I saw that she was struggling and just needed someone to give her a break. I told her to come back next week and I'd have something for her free of charge. I already knew what this baby needed. I went to my secretary's office and asked if we still had any of the tooth cleaning lollipops. She checked our storage closet and came out with an entire bag filled with multiple flavors of those lollipops that prevent cavities and clean teeth. They had the golden component of risperidol, which is excellent for reducing acidity and in turn rebalances the oral pH level, stripping away the bacteria that infest your saliva. The best part is that this cleaning process only takes 10 minutes and they taste amazing. I picked the bag, and when the next appointment rolled around, I gave it to the mother. I advised her to give these to her son after every meal, instead of whatever candy she was using before. After a couple more checkups, her son's teeth were healing well and there weren't any more visible signs of tooth decay thanks to the tooth cleaning lollipops. We worked something out for him to get fluoride varnish in the future when his adult teeth grow in place. Also wrote her down a referral for a nutrition specialist and told her that I'd be in contact with her insurance very soon to make sure that her son could develop the eating habits he needed. I remember her not saying a word, just hugging me tightly and rocking for what felt like an eternity. After that incident, I ordered more of the tooth cleaning candy from their site and made personalized goodie bags for my patients. You'd be surprised how many patients come in with the same problem. And the tooth cleaning candy has been a success in treating each patient. I still have patients who tell me that they eat the lollipops months after our appointments because they know it keeps their mouths in good condition. To this day, I've actually kept in contact with the mother and I've seen her son grow up. Soon he's going to be starting middle school. He's been able to develop those better eating habits like we hoped, but he still loves to have one of those lollipops, so maybe some habits don't need to change. That was our /AskReddit. If you liked these stories, please give the video a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot.